to Black Horizons. I'm your host, Hamid Rasheed. This week we bring you the second in a three-part series on the history of the African United Baptist Association. In our program last week, viewers had an opportunity to see the first part in our series, where we talked about the history and highlights of the 126 sessions of the African United Baptist Association. In our third and final program, which will be shown on Black Horizons next week, we'll talk to church officials, delegates, visitors, and friends about the meaning of the African United Baptist Association for them and their predictions for the future of this great association. In today's program, we look at the thrust of the African United Baptist Association as indicated by the reports of the various heads of associations and societies in the African United Baptist Association. We take you now to the business sessions of the 126 association meetings held this year in East Preston.
Yes, searching for the wrong thing to do. Oh, that unite.
The association meetings begin on Saturday each year with business sessions. Each of the 18 churches sends official delegates to represent their church in discussing business and reports of the association. It is at this time that reports are given by the various societies of the church and the committees, such as the Rural and Urban Life Committee, the Scholarship Committee, Sunday School, Social Service, and Education Committees. In today's program, we will talk to church officials, delegates, and heads of societies to determine the current impact of the association on Nova Scotians' black community. Miss Maxine Gough of Dartmouth is chairperson of the African United Baptist Scholarship Committee. We talked to her about the scholarship fund. Miss Maxine Gough, you're chairman of the IUBA Scholarship Fund. I listened with interest to your report yesterday when you were giving a report to the association delegates on the activities of the fund. I was particularly interested in the Grace Morrison Scholarship Fund. Could you tell us a bit about the fund?
Well, the Grace Morrison Scholarship is from a fund that was set up. It's given to a person that has good academic achievement, and it will be attending a university, a degree-granting university.
Mm-hmm.
The scholarship is given on the basis of marks and recommendations from the school and the community leaders that know the person. The scholarship itself is given out once every 3 or 4 years, and it pays $500 a year during the undergraduate studies. So it could value up to $2,000 to each recipient.
I see. That's a considerable assistance to a black student when you're going to university. Very worthwhile effort. Can you tell us a bit about the general activities of the fund? I understand you make other bursaries available to black students as well, other deserving black students.
Well, we have by general guidelines, we try to give an amount of money to everyone that applies. Like this year, we had 28 people that were eligible, and of the 28, of course, one was given the Grace Morrison Scholarship,
yes,
and the other 27 were given an amount no more than $175 and no less than $50.
Right. These will be in the form of bursaries.
These are bursaries.
Would these be university students or?
Yes, they all must be university students.
I see.
There.
So then there would be no assistance available to people going to vocational schools?
Yes, there are the Brotherhood of the AUBA.
I see.
And the Women's Institute of the AUBA also have bursary funds.
I see. And, so there are other lay societies as well of the association who are working in this very important area.
Right, and they give to any other person that they feel is deserving of an award. And this, again, can be to study, like a woman that wants to study courses, and or going to vocational school or going into a private school and various things. And also I think they have the awarded some money for, say, trips for people that were going on study trips or something like that.
May I ask, how does the association finance the scholarship fund, and does the association accept donations of any kind or a scholarship fund?
Yes, we have the scholarship fund is set up, and they the monies, other than the Grace Morrison, which comes from the interest of an amount of
Yes.
invested amount of money.
Yes.
The others are contributions from the various church and church groups and people that are interested in the fund. And yes, they would be interested in.
So if people did want to make donations, they could make their donations to the African United Baptist Association
Yes.
through any association church or through you as chairman of the scholarship fund?
Or they could go through our treasurer, Miss Alma Johnston of Cherry Brook. Yes, one more comment that we are has been set up now is a ministerial fund.
I see.
And that's solely to promote the young people that would be interested in going into the ministry. And this again is a separate fund as of this year, and it's open to anyone that has been accepted in the ministry in the Baptist faith.
Fine. Excellent work for the scholarship fund of the African United Baptist Association. Thank you very much, Maxine. Reverend Scare, you're a very busy man. We want to thank you for taking time out from your very busy schedule, clerk, at these 126 sessions to appear on the Black Horizons program. I was reading your report that you presented this afternoon, your executive report, and I found a number of comments that you made of tremendous interest. The first point that caught my attention was your comment about the youth. You mentioned in your report that our young people are disturbed, upset, and restless. What do you see the church's role in dealing with the needs of these young people?
Well, I think the church realizes that we're living in a changing age, especially among the black youth, that we're not able to our young people are not going to be as submissive and as accommodating as perhaps we were in years gone by. And consequently, I feel that the church should be able to take this restlessness and try to maneuver it in a constructive way, not in any way diminishing the amount of energy that the young people have in identifying themselves as a person. We feel that the old ways, the old ideas, the old concept that we have has to be subject to change today.
I see.
But it's a matter of controlling it.
I see. This leads us into another point that I wanted to ask you about, and that is your view of the church's role in an evolving, in a community that's in transition. If you could think for a minute in terms of the traditional approach in religion in this country of the secular and the spiritual, not mixing politics into life. What is your view on that?
Well, I definitely feel that the church must have a message for the total man, not only his spiritual side, but also his body, the concerns that he concerns with every day. I believe that the gospel that Jesus proclaimed was one of not only feeding the soul, but also feeding the body. And I do feel that the church must relate itself to the problems of everyday living.
How far would you go with that? For example, in terms of concrete issues in the community, do you feel the church should involve itself politically in these issues?
I do feel that way, certainly. I do think that there's a place for religious leadership in the realm of politics. I do feel that the church must get out there 7 days a week, not just 1 day a week. I feel that housing, employment, and hunger, and all those needs of our people must be related to by the church.
That's a very good point, Reverend. Another point that I noticed in your report that caught my attention, and this was the mention of the presence of a multi-religious community. I found it interesting that you took the time to note this in your report. What are your views and the views of the association on the changing makeup of the religious community in Nova Scotia?
Well, I don't know whether or not I can say I reflect the feeling of the entire association. We are distinctively a Baptist organization, but I do feel that we've got to be tolerant enough to accept the freedoms of all people to accept and espouse whatever religious teachings they want to accept. This is not, in my way of thinking, this is not compromising, no watering down our sense of what the gospel is. But I do feel that there is a place for unity and working together. Now, if a man wants to serve his God in his own particular way, I think that is freedom, because that is one of the things that our democratic way of life sort of proclaims, freedom of religion. And I don't think that that when we promote the gospel in so many of the other areas that affects our people, I feel that there is a place whereby we can work together.
Would you say, in terms of general comment on the association, would you say that the association is growing with the times, and it is becoming more sophisticated as it goes along?
Well, I think that there is still a conservative attitude on the part of many people in the association, and I think this grows out of the fact that most of our people that make up the association today are of limited educational level. Consequently, they only feel comfortable in the area in which they can function. But I do feel that as the young people coming along and take their place in the church, and with their broadened educational horizons, that they're going to articulate many of these things into the program of the church.
As far back as 1890, young people were organized in many of the churches of the African United Baptist Association. Known as the Baptist Youth Fellowship, or BYF, this youth group provides a focus for youth activities in the black church. Mrs. Ruth Johnson of Cobgood Road is the supervisor of the youth group. We talked to her about the activities of the BYF and its relationship to the African United Baptist Association.
Association is the governing body over the BYF because we're under the African United Baptist Association, so they're like the umbrella over us.
I see. So you're only independent in as much as financing is concerned. You still remain affiliated with the association itself.
Yes.
I suppose the association would be happy with that because it means they're not going to have to supply you with funds any longer.
No, we have to make plans raising our own funds, although, you know, we already held a conference and we had that from way back, the holding of the conferences. But now we have to make raise funds like concerts and rallies and other ways of raising funds.
I see.
To build up our bank account.
I see. Now, was this a decision made by the young people themselves that they wanted to raise their own money, or was this at the suggestion of the association?
No, the young people thought that they've been governed by the association, like funded by the association, so they would like to try and see if they could go on their own with a good supervisor and a good budget. They should be able to make it for the year, run their own affairs for the year.
I see from reading your report as well that one of the activities of your young people's group was to honor students at your recent annual youth conference that you had on Hammers Plains this year. What was the purpose behind that?
Well, the purpose behind that was to encourage our black students. As you could, if you attended that service, you know it was outstanding awards they won, and some of our students, one has gone off to Africa, and this means a lot to us. Some has gone off through sports to Peru and Upper Canada, and the girls has been fabulous too in sports. And they have won top awards, highest awards in sports. So we honor them with a gift and the year of the child pin and also the ribbon.
I see, very nice gesture. I see in your report you stressed a very important point or as to one of the objectives of the BYF group, that being to teach the meaning of a dedicated born-again Christian. What do you see as being the importance of this objective to young people?
To be a born-again Christian, why I said this, anybody can join a church, be baptized, and become a member. But born again means a spiritual awareness, that you set your goals high and that you live accordingly. And you let the Spirit of the Lord lead you in the way that you can be a shining light for others or an example for others to walk the straight and narrow path. So this is the Christian training. Born again means one who walks the straight and narrow path.
As an illustration of some of the programming carried out by youth groups within the association, we talked to Glen Gray of the 3 Mile Plains community about the activities of the youth group Growing Together.
The Growing Together Club is a club that was formed back in October by my wife and I, and we have around 25 to 30 members. What we try to do is to teach them through a Christian attitude, life, like in the sense of dealing with the problems like drugs. We have speakers in on drugs, talk on drugs. We had the amount of police come in and talk on the law. We have black educators, like somebody come in and talk on black history, try to find out more about our history, our roots, and sort of try something to keep them interested, while we also can give them the gospel. Like we have a gospel night once a month where we take the scripture, try our best to find what it's trying to say, what God's message He's given us, try to show them the fear of the Lord, which we feel a lot of young people today have lost. They don't seem to have the fear of God in their heart, so therefore they go and do anything that they feel they want to do. There's no regulations on what they do. So we try to install that in them, because in our community, the young people are sort of rebellious. They get into a lot of trouble, a lot of fights, cause problems in the community off and on. Not any more than any other community, I don't think, but it's happening, and dropping out of school, not doing well in the high schools, and we feel that it's mainly because this lack of discipline. There's no discipline. They don't have the proper or the adequate, there's enough discipline in the home, and also without Christ and knowing that the fear of God, knowing that you have to try to do right because you're going to be judged, punished for your wrongdoings. They just go and do what they want to do. And we try to show them that God is there, that He loves them, and that they should have fear of the Lord and to believe in Jesus Christ and trust in Him. That's our main goal, to get that message across, get them to accept that and be saved. But also, in doing that, we know we got to tackle the basic needs of life. You can't just say, well, accept Christ, and then not give them, help them find employment, or give them some sort of recreation. And young people have to have the social part of life too that they have to find. That's basically what we try to do.
The impact of the African United Baptist Association goes beyond the borders of Nova Scotia. We talked to Reverend Henry Barnwell of the New Life Center of Phoenix, Arizona, a perennial visitor to the association, about his impressions of the AUBA.
I think probably here people does not realize the resource that they really have going for them, and I've been coming here now for some 10 years or more, and some of the things that I've seen in action here, and I do speak in reference of the youth conference here.
Yes.
Now, in Arizona we did not have TAL as such, but we did have youth department. But by coming here, I was able then to observe the youth conference. Maybe it's not identically, but I have taken some of those ideas that I received from here in Nova Scotia and the Arab and United Baptist Association back to Phoenix. And now we are enjoying comfortably 500 or more young people annually, plus the inspirational services down through the year under this TAL Youth Conference. And we just TAL at Zion Rest District Association Youth Conference.
One of the shining lights in the African United Baptist Association is Mrs. Vera Jackson of Halifax, who for many years has been the hospital visitor for the African United Baptist Association. We talked to Mrs. Jackson about her many years of service as a hospital visitor.
I would tell them who I was. Then I would try to very gently approach them, and if they were really very sick, well, I would be very mild in my talking. And
These would be the people that you'd be visiting in the hospital?
Yes, in the ward, ward, yes. And some of them, even though they were really sick, they would try to appreciate my visit.
I see. Now, did you visit all of the hospitals in the Halifax?
Everyone.
I see.
All hospitals and institutions.
I see. Now,
in a town and out of town.
In town and out of town. Now, how many days a week would you be visiting with
Well,
the
I
hospital?
would probably be at one hospital every day, including Sundays.
7 days a week
Every
for 10
minute,
years.
every minute that I had to spare.
I see. I suppose people would be
And
very
I
glad
met many people
Yes,
and many of the clergymen, and they were all so very nice.
I see. I suppose people after a while could sort of look forward. Anybody in the association who was ill sort of look forward to
Many
your
a
visit.
person told me that they knew that I would be there. They
see.
knew.
Yeah.
I went one day to a ward, and the man's wife was in bed, and he said, "I just told my wife that you would be here, and here you are."
I see.
And that's what I tried to do.
I see.
I had a job, and I did it.
Grave concerns were brought to the attention of delegates attending the 126th sessions of the African United Baptist Association by the chairpersons of the Social Service, Sunday School, and Education Committees. Florence L. Bald, chairlady of the Education Committee, expressed concern that black history is not being promoted at all by the educators within the classrooms. The only reference that is made to black people is in the study of slavery. Indigenous Africans are losing their identity in the school system, she said. They are not being taught about African customs, dress, habits, methods of livelihood, and ways of entertainment. We conform with European customs and ways of life and are totally ignorant about our ancestors. She further stressed that black parents must develop a realistic awareness of what type of education we want for our youth. Marion Skinner of Halifax, chairperson of the Social Service Committee, expressed concern for the weakening of the black family. To counteract this trend, she stressed the need to make use of any available trained Christian people to teach the black community the good effects or ill effects of their actions, and preventative measures and cures. Mrs. Skinner also expressed concern at the number of black children being placed in white foster and adoptive homes. Mrs. Josephine Johnson of North Preston, chairperson of the Sunday School Committee, expressed concern that most of our Sunday schools are faced with the problem of keeping the young people interested in coming to Sunday school. I ask you, as adults of the association, she said, to take a good look at the life of our Sunday school and ask ourselves how we can keep our young people in the churches. We are losing so many of them. They are not staying in our churches, or they go to other church schools. Are we interested enough to find ways in trying to solve some of these problems? She asked. Dr. Oliver, you've been chairman of the Urban and Rural Life Committee of the African United Baptist Association for a good number of years now. What is the main thrust of the Urban and Rural Life Committee?
Well, the main object has been to act as a catalyst,
Yes.
and to, through using our clergymen and any professional people within our churches, and they sort of make a consensus and agree on the items and areas of concern that should be directed to the attention of our people during their convention.
Mm-hmm. This year I noted in your report you made a comment about I think you used the term abnormal unemployment and the devastating effects that it's having on our black communities. Could you perhaps just share a few words on that particular concern that you expressed in your report?
Yes, of course this is general among youth, of course, but I do have a feeling that it's abnormal, as I've observed in our various black communities and on the streets of our city. There's so many idle young people, which suggests it must be a very frustrating thing for them. As a matter of fact, it is, and because it's difficult for them to defer their gratification, to have to wait 2 or 3 years before they can obtain a meaningful job, having trained themselves and equipped themselves, and yet have to walk the streets and suffer the indignity of their dignity, having to apply for unemployment, in some cases welfare. This is not helping these young people. And I also suggested that it had something to do with weakening the fiber of family life. Because most young people like to feel that they're gainfully employed, that they're able to provide a home and shelter and the amenities of life for their families. And if they're not working, they're going to defer doing this, and this creates further problems, and of course it probably falls into the general pattern of greater flexibility in these social areas.
Yes. In terms of concrete action that this African Baptist Association might take to deal with a problem like unemployment, would you think that this is something that the association should involve itself in, or is this something perhaps the association would make strong recommendation to other black organizations to intervene in, or what do you think is the solution to this very serious problem?
Well, other than local church leaders or youth leaders developing proposals for manpower and youth programs, normally we recommend to other agencies. In the earlier days it used to be NSACP, more recent been the Black United Front, and these agencies sort of carry out, because we look upon the community organizations as sort of secular arms of the church. But the church people have to be aware of it, and that's why we discuss them in our sessions.
I see. Doctor, just before we close off, I'd like to move on to another area. And given that you are, the name of your committee is the Rural and Urban Life Committee, the plight, what do you see as the future of the small rural black churches scattered across the Nova Scotia's black community? What do you think the future holds for these small churches? Are you optimistic?
Well, I think the future is dependent upon our ability to be able to recruit leadership. And it may require a new type of ministry. It may take a traveling ministry. It may take a group ministry, you see. But the one concern I have is that we encourage young, strong, well-trained, equipped young leaders to go in these churches.
The African United Baptist Association of Nova Scotia is at a crossroads of many routes that it can take. There are many options open, and choices will have to be made. The choices made will determine, perhaps irreversibly, the destiny of future generations of blacks in Nova Scotia. The African United Baptist Association, if it is to maintain its position of prominence in the black community of Nova Scotia, must provide the black community with the capacity to function adequately in trying times. The decision to act or not to act rests with the leadership of the African United Baptist Association, but the verdict will be made by our children in the future, and I trust they will find today's leadership in the church not guilty of procrastination, indecision, and lack of foresight. That's our program for today. Be sure to be watching next week for part 3 of our series on the African United Baptist Association. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Hello, welcome to Black Horizons. I'm your host, Hamid Rasheed. Today we conclude our 3-part series on the African United Baptist Association. The Black Church historically has been one of the most important institutions for blacks in Nova Scotia. In today's program, we talk to church leaders, heads of societies, and members of the black community about the significance of the African United Baptist Association for them. We also will talk to them about their views on the future of the African United Baptist Association. Mrs. Marsman, you're from Hammonds Plains. I guess you've been to quite a few associations in your short life.
Yes, I have.
Could you tell me what does association mean to you?
Well, association means that all God's children gather together, and when they get together, it is really wonderful, you know, to be with God's children, because when you're a child of God, when another child of God get up, you can feel the spirit from it. And I think it's most wonderful to be in a meeting like this.
What do you think about the future of the association, the African United Baptist Association? Do you think it'll be with us for some time yet? Or?
Oh, yes. I think it'll be here for a long time, because, you know, it was here years and years ago. And I can remember when we used to have the association in Hammonds Plains, and it was a godsend, because it helped the people and it lift the people up to let them know.
Certainly, if any of our viewing audience could have been here this afternoon to hear the singing of the Northwestern Choir, they probably would have been filled with some of the spirit that was here.
It was wonderful. Thank God for those people. Because I think God must have put a song in their hearts, because you never hear such singing of all of the people, but the North Preston people.
Seems to be a special gift that's been given to these people.
A real gift.
What do you think life would be like in Nova Scotia if we didn't have the annual association meetings? What do you think? How do you think, would you be disappointed if somebody should decide not to have the association? What do you think would be missing?
I feel now, since we've had this, I feel now to take this from us would be just like taking our life away.
Bruce Johnson of North Preston is the most recent young man to begin the study of theology in the African United Baptist Association. A ministerial student at Acadia University, we talked to Bruce regarding his feelings about the association.
When we were down with nothing, in our bleakest moment, we had our church, we had Jesus. And even today in 1979, despite people going in the different pathway of life, dealing with the secular professions or whatever they may be, the church still stands strong, and this is where I think the future of our people is. Holding on to the church, making progress in the world here, but without Jesus, there's no progress for us as a people.
I'd like to just have you expand on that a little bit. You're a young man, you're soon to be one of the new leaders in the association. What vision do you have as a leader for the future of the African United Baptist Association? What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see more young people taking the talents that they had, the education that they have already achieved, and dedicate themselves more to the African Baptist Association. This is where our strength is. And we would be a much stronger people if we had those young educated people in our fold. And I believe that we will not just show our own community or Halifax County or Nova Scotia, but we would show the world, not through ourselves, but how God has used us.
I see. What kinds of specific programs could you see the association enacting in order to bring about more contact between itself and the various black communities?
Well, one program I would like to see them get involved with is the educational area. I would like to see Christian training centers organized or even implemented in the public schools, especially in our area where we have the 3 largest black communities. And this is what I would like to see done. And I believe that without the training of our young people, without the people in general, but the young people, right, I look at it as being the future of tomorrow, the future leaders. And they need to be trained to go on, and they'll see that we didn't sow our seeds in vain, but that we are bearing fruit for the kingdom of God and for the betterment of our community.
In terms of the young people in the various black communities, would you consider that the African United Baptist Association, through its various existing programs, has the majority of the young people participating, or is the African United Baptist Association suffering the same kinds of difficulties that many churches are suffering today, where young people consider the church to be more and more becoming, if not already irrelevant, becoming more so every day?
Indeed not. I would say that of all the young people organizations I have seen throughout Nova Scotia, Canada, I have never seen any youth organization that is so strong and enthusiastic as the young people we have in the African Baptist Association. We don't seem to have that barrier that other people seem to have. We can come together, work out our issues. I don't think that we are suffering the same difficulties other people are having, because we have one basic ingredient, that is the Spirit of God. Despite any, you're going to have your debates on certain issues, but we have no real problem as far as we're looking with faith in God.
What about the view held by many that the church and secular affairs should be separated, that the church ought not to involve itself in politics, economics, some of the more, what you might call mundane aspects of life in our communities? Do you hold that view, or do you believe that the church should be involved in the total community?
Well, looking at Jesus and what he said, I come to heal the sick, not those who are self-righteous. And when he came, he looked at the world of what was happening in the world. It was not the just man that he came to liberate. It is the man who needs him. And I believe that we are making progress, that what we are doing in the church, that it is through Jesus, and that these things can only be accomplished by holding on to Jesus. And I don't see any hindrance there at all.
Mrs. Oliver, I know that you were the first lady moderator of this great association. Your term finished, I believe, last year. You were just the...
Finished it last year.
Finished it last year. During your term as moderator, what would you consider to be the highlight of your term?
Well, Art, being a woman, and I suppose having the motherly instinct, I wanted to go to those communities that had never had an association for 50, 60 years. And the surprising thing, like little Inglewood.
Yes.
And I said, now, Preston's and Halifax, they always have it. But I wanted to get into those little communities, yes. And I knew they could do it. And the thing of it was, as soon as I asked one person in Inglewood if they could do it, she said, sure, we could do it. Then the next term, I said, oh, God, take us to Tracadie. They never had an association of Tracadie before. And when I went to the main man there, the spiritual leader, I said, do you think you... He said, oh, I'm sure we could. And if you were at those associations, were you?
Yes, indeed.
Well, you know they were a blessing.
Yes.
And the people thought they couldn't do it. Little Inglewood and Tracadie. So I feel the highlight of my term as moderator was to take the association down into Inglewood, and it was a blessing to the whole valley.
Yes.
And then the next year to take it down to Tracadie, places that had never had it.
Yes. Outreach is a very important point, special outreach to the small rural communities.
Oh, it's a blessing.
In your opinion, what do you see as the future for the small rural black churches in Nova Scotia? I know you, during your term, you gave special emphasis. You mentioned taking the two associations there, and I know that contributed immensely to the spirit in those particular communities. What are your thoughts about the future of these small rural communities?
As long as we have a black community, there's going to be a black church.
Yes.
Now, if the communities become so integrated,
yes.
as many of them are today, there is a possibility that it might dwindle. Yes. But as long as there is a distinct black community, now the school might go, yes. But the church will never go.
Calvin, you, I understand, are the first young man to be ordained to the clergy of the African United Baptist Association in the last 25 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I also understand that you've been voted this year to become vice moderator of the association. What does that entail? What is the function of the vice moderator or the moderator of the African United Baptist Association?
Well, as vice moderator of the association, one fills in the absence of the moderator. You are requested to be at special events, not necessarily always religious activities, but various things pertaining to black organizations. One of our major things, as you are aware, is our African Baptist Association. We look forward to the annual sessions of that, which is really the highlight of it all. But throughout the year we attend, I as moderator have attended in the past, vice moderator rather, just in this past year I have attended several functions in absence of our moderator, Reverend D.E. Fairfax.
So the moderator really is the person who is the chief officer, so to speak, of the entire association.
That is right.
He's more or less the chairman, the president, if you will, person who presides over the meetings of the association.
Right.
So congratulations, that's quite a position to be nominated to. Kelvin, you're one of the younger men in the church, one of the young leaders, doing a fine job in your community of Hammonds Plains. What vision do you have for the future of the African United Baptist Association? What would you hope to do, for example, during your term as moderator of the association?
First, I would like to say that I speak very optimistically in regards to the future of the African Baptist Association, because it is the greatest body in our black people, and as you perhaps are aware, we are celebrating this year our 126th year as an African Baptist Association. And one of the things that I perhaps would work for myself when I become moderator of the association, I would try to get involved into some of the other areas where our people are perhaps more weaker at. And I'm thinking of many of the valley areas now. I would stress a lot of emphasis and try to work very closely with a lot of our young people. I think there's a great need and there's a great potential in with our young people. Somehow or another, this seems to be my greatest concern, because I see so many of the young people, although there are quite a number actively involved in the church, the majority of them I find are not interested in the church at all, or they have no part in the church. And I feel that if we're going to continue to operate on a strong basis, it is a must that we get more of these young people into the churches and use some of the potential and some of the talent that is there. So I would really place great emphasis on the young people.
What do you see as the importance of the association of black people in Nova Scotia?
Well, the association has been able to keep black people together. It has been able to take and unify all of the Baptist churches within the Atlantic Baptist Association. It's I think, high that the blacks in the Baptist Association look for every year. They know that the association is going to meet somewhere, that they're going to meet people who maybe they haven't seen for the past year, or maybe they haven't seen in years. It's a time when people who are away come home to be with loved ones, to share in the joy and the things that God has given them over that year. It's just a great association.
Some have said, rightly or wrongly, that the African United Baptist Association is becoming weak. You're a young man, potential leader, future leader. What do you see as the future for the African United Baptist Association?
Well, you know, the African Baptist Association, I think, like any organization, does have times when it doesn't perhaps do what the people think it should do. But it takes all of the people that make up the African Baptist Association to make it a strong organization. An organization can only be as strong as the people that make it up.
In terms of that point of view, today at the association meeting, as always, I guess, association time, we had a capacity crowd here this afternoon of probably 1,500 to 2,000 people. Yet we know quite often in the churches themselves, on a regular Sunday, oftentimes there are a number of pews that are empty. What do you think the association can do in practical terms to keep the spirit of these association meetings alive throughout the entire year?
Well, I think what we have to do is that the people who call themselves born-again children of God are going to have to go out into their respective communities and preach the Word of God, to bring people in off the street. They're going to have to become more of a disciple of Jesus, not only at association time, but every Sunday, every day, in fact, in their own communities. They're going to have to do it in their homes, in their churches, at work, wherever they go. They're just going to have to carry the message of Jesus to everybody.
I'd like to get personal for a minute, Brian, if I might. In terms of your own particular situation, do you have testimony that you'd like to share with other young people, perhaps who are looking for direction? We know young people, I think the clerk of your association in his executive report of the executive committee yesterday commented that so many young people in the black community are adrift, they're restless, they're looking for an anchor. Do you have a testimony perhaps that you might want to share just for some of the benefit of some of these young people?
Well, you know, I graduated from high school, went on to university. I play a lot of sports. I thought I had everything. But 2 years ago, when I gave my heart to God, then I had it all. I had everything. God is just, He means so much. I mean, you know, you can go to bed at night and know that if it's God's will, that you will live to see tomorrow. And that, you know, just to know that there is somebody that makes the beautiful day, that sends the rain, and that keeps you, you know, in good health, that is there to watch over you. And all you have to do is trust in Him and pray. That's all you have to do.
Mm-hmm. In terms of your opinion of the young people, particularly in the communities, would you, this perhaps is a bit similar to the question I'd asked you earlier, but what do you consider to be the opinion of the young people at large vis-a-vis the church? We know that in not only the African United Baptist Association, but I guess the church universally is suffering from the crisis of purpose, I guess. People are questioning the relevance of church to contemporary situation. What would be your view? Do the young people in the various black communities across the province, generally speaking, see the church as being relevant to their needs, or not relevant, in your opinion?
I think you know, the youth that I've talked to that are outside the church, they don't think the church basically has any bearing on their life. To me, you know, they're wrong. The church has a great bearing on your life because basically in the past for blacks, it has been the only thing that they had that was theirs. And, you know, the thing is that there's work for everybody to do in the church. There's work for the older people to do and for the young, because after all, we that are the youth of the black communities are going to have to be that church of tomorrow. So we have to work along with the elders in the church and the community so that when it becomes our day to lead, that, you know, we'll get off on the right direction, you know, that type of thing.
Wayne, you're a longtime member of the association. What does the association mean to you?
Actually, I'm a short-time member of the association, having joined the church a bit less than 3 years ago. The association to me means a connection with things in the past, development stages, things that have happened to advance me to where I am today, so to speak. It's a long story, as I understand it, back from the times of slavery when the first slaves arrived here. The first religious teachings gathered around the formation of what we now call the association. That's 126 years ago from its original formation. Mm-hmm. But out of that association has grown many opportunities, such as education efforts to get blacks involved in the workplace, in the higher echelons where they never did before, such as nursing. That was one of the first education accomplishments that I can understand or remember. Higher standards of education by the rank and file of black people have been the effort of the African Baptist Association, apart from the religious section or sector of its teachings.
Mm-hmm. Reverend Scare, you've been intimately involved with the African United Baptist Association for many, many years. I know you've been active as clerk, but in addition to that, you've, I guess, been probably involved with the association well over 30 years, I would hazard a guess. If you were to summarize the significance of the African United Baptist Association for blacks in Nova Scotia, what would your comment be in that regard?
Well, I have often likened the association to the human body. I believe that there are arms, feet, mouth, mind, but also there has to be a heart. Mm-hmm. And I think of the association in the development and growth of black people in Nova Scotia as being that heart. The association does not have the resources to implement many of the things that she would like to do today, but she can give the spirit and the motivation to the black people to do it. And therefore, I do feel that as the body has many parts, so the body of black people have many parts, which brings in, of course, many of the other organizations that can function within the black community.
I want to come back to that point a little later. I wanted to ask you, having said that, are you optimistic about the future of the association, particularly as it relates to the small rural churches? We've talked to a number of officers associated with the African United Baptist Association, and many of them have spoken of their desire to see the association become active in outreach to the small rural black communities. Do you share that concern?
Well, I can see a danger that the association will lose in many of the outlying areas, because I believe any organization to perpetuate itself must produce its own leadership, and unless we as an association can produce leadership within the church, I can see that there's a danger that we'll lose many of the churches and communities on the fringe areas outside of the larger, most highly populated black communities. Also, I believe this, that I think that the whole appeal of the association will have to change in order to captivate the enthusiasm of the black young people that are coming along. What I mean by that, I'm not trying to say that we should compromise or water down our spiritual message, but I do feel the church must become involved in more of the socio-economic problems of our people.
Right. I wonder if you share the concern expressed by some of the delegates. Yesterday I listened intently to the report that was delivered by the chairman of the Sunday School Committee, and I think the report indicated that attendance by the young people in a number of the Sunday schools was dropping off. What do you think the association can do in concrete terms to draw more young people into the Sunday schools in order that you might be able to begin to develop them for leadership in the future of the association?
Again, I feel this is contingent upon leadership.
Yes.
I think that where you find churches that are pastorless, we can't have a spiritual advisor in the area. I think that it's only natural that there's going to be a falling down and a weakening on the program of the church. And then again, I also believe too that we must accept the fact we're living in a day when people perhaps are not as spiritually minded as they were in a former day. And many young people, I don't think it's sort of lack of interest in spiritual matters, but I think that they just don't have that interest. I think this is not just peculiar to our people. This is also, I believe, the problems the whole church is faced with.
In terms of this question of leadership and capability to be able to become involved in a direct way with many of the problems in the black community, yesterday we heard Dr. Oliver, who's chairman of your Urban and Rural Life Committee, indicate his desire to step down in hopes that some younger person or persons could be found to carry on the work of the Urban and Rural Life Committee. Would you see, for example, organizations maybe like the Black United Front and the African United Baptist Association coming together along the line, say, of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in the United States, for example, or the model used by PUSH in Chicago?
I can't see us coming along together as an organic body, but I'm definitely sure that there has to be more cooperation. I think that there should be more complementary working together. I think that we have to put an image to the people that both organizations are trying to achieve the same thing, maybe along different lines, which is only natural. But I think that outside there is an ocean of people, a number of people that are looking for leadership. They're trying to find solutions to their problems, and I think that we must submerge our differences, if there are any, and we must work towards the betterment of the common man out there. I think that this is the aim of both organizations, really.
Right. I listened intently to your keynote address to a capacity crowd yesterday at the keynote association address. And one of the comments I heard you make, that you saw Jesus as the answer to many of the problems that exist in the community. I think you went on to say that Jesus is the answer to the racial problems, to our economic problems, to all of our problems. Bringing that down from a philosophical basis to pragmatic terms, how would you see Jesus as being the answer? For example, in the I believe it was in the Urban and Rural Life Report, Dr. Oliver alluded to the abnormal level of unemployment in the black communities. What would you see the church doing in terms of dealing with this very serious problem of unemployment?
Well, are you thinking of the church now as the African Association, or are you thinking of the universal church as we understand it through our Christian concept of religion?
I'm thinking particularly of this great association.
Well, I don't know whether our association can do very much to make an impact on the economic problems of our people, because we unfortunately don't have the control of the economic string, so to speak. But I do maintain, in essence, what I meant was that if the world, if those so-called Christian people throughout the world would understand the truth of the gospel, as I understand Jesus preached it, I don't want to make it seem simplistic, but I do believe that if more of this was done, that many of the problems that we're faced with in the world can be overcome.
But you are so kind and so good. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for those veterans and pioneers that have laid the work, that we are able today to rejoice in this association. Oh, our Father, we thank you for the leadership that thou art providing. Thank you, our Father, for those who are determined to stand for Jesus. Thank you, our Father, for those who are determined to sing for Jesus. Thank you, our Father, for those who are determined to witness for Jesus. Thank you, our Father, for those determined to call Jesus in the morning and call him in the noonday hour, call him in the wee hour of the night. Thank you for letting us call you today. Oh, our Father, we ask that thou will be so kind today is to help us to let our light shine. Father, without thee we realize we cannot let our light shine, but we know through thee all things is possible. Thank you, our Father, for this facility. Thank you for those who had the vision and, oh God, allowed you to lead them on. Now, when praying days is all over with, Father, we've got to go in our room to come out no more. We have to lay down our hymn books and Bibles. Our last prayers have been prayed, and our last sermon preached, and the last hymn sung. May we be able to lay our heads on your breast, breathe our lives out gently, and hear that glorious and welcome voice saying, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant."
126 years have brought the African United Baptist Association this far. As a people, blacks of Nova Scotia have every right to rejoice in the development of work founded by slaves, unlettered, unprepared to enter a free society, and without financial resources. For our brethren of African descent, the past 126 years have been years of great achievement. It has been a difficult pilgrimage, but our success is a testimony to the unflagging faith we have maintained in our potentialities. As the Church embarks on its second century of operation, it is imperative that the spiritual, intellectual, and material resources of the black community be directed toward the complete acceptance of the onerous responsibility that is its legacy. What the future holds for the African United Baptist Association, no human mind can foretell, but if the leadership and the members of the African United Baptist Association bring the same qualities of consecration, devotion, and loyalty so frequently displayed by those that have gone before them, we know success will attend their efforts. That's our program for today. Thank you for watching Black Horizons. See you next week.